Welcome back to The Explainer, where we decode the complex so you can build the future. Today, we are exploring something absolutely monumental. It's called the Human Codex Nexus Federation Blueprint. Now, this isn't just some quick high-level white paper. We're talking about a massive, meticulously detailed framework spanning over 300 chapters. It's designed to build an awe-inspiring human AI ecosystem, but honestly, it's really a master plan for civilizational resilience. It's all about how we capture, protect, and actually pass on human wisdom using artificial intelligence as our co-pilot. But before we dive into the nuts and bolts, we have to ask a really high-stakes question. Will our digital knowledge survive the next 200 years? I mean, just think about the fragility of our current digital landscape. Websites go down all the time. Massive companies go bankrupt. Cloud platforms shift their business models, and suddenly, terabytes of human history, art, and research literally just vanish. We kind of walk around assuming the internet is permanent, but the source material argues that digital memory is actually incredibly fragile. If the servers turn off today, what really remains of us tomorrow? And that brings us to a highly specific number, 2226. No, this isn't just a random sci-fi date. This is known as the 2226 standard. It's the exact target year this entire architectural blueprint is designed to reach. The authors of this framework have structured every single protocol, database, and artificial intelligence with a 200-year horizon in mind. The ultimate goal is to ensure that the wisdom we encode today survives for centuries, outliving its original creators, outliving today's tech giants, and outliving whatever platforms we currently use. So our blueprint for today looks like this. We'll zoom from the macro vision right down to the micro-level rules. We are covering the 200-year survival vision, the 95% truth gate, cathedral and satellites, the core intelligences, the ring of perspectives, and finally, preserving wisdom. Let's jump right into Section 1, the 200-year survival vision, establishing the foundational problem this whole thing solves. So, the big question is, how do you actually guarantee survival when technology changes so incredibly fast? Well, the framework introduces this brilliant concept called the Century Reassembly Rule. The rule dictates that all systems, documents, and protocols have to be constructed so simply that future stewards, say people living 100 years from now, can rebuild the entire Federation totally from scratch. They shouldn't need a direct line to the original creator's private knowledge. To pull this off, the system relies on highly readable, platform-independent data structures. Specifically, they use simple YAML files rather than locked-down proprietary databases. It's a philosophy of supreme simplicity, all for the sake of survival. Moving right along to Section 2, the 95% truth gate, let's look at the strict ethical constraints. To handle the inherent biases we see in AI, the framework introduces something fascinating called the Hollow Vessel Protocol, or DIR 071. Before any intelligence in this ecosystem can process information or spit out an answer, it has to perform a mandatory clearing operation. It literally has to intentionally shed ego, personal agenda, fear, and any attachment to a specific desired outcome. By forcing this philosophical clearing of the ego right at the technical level, the system ensures totally objective, unbiased AI reasoning. This isn't just a polite guideline, it's a hard-coded prerequisite to even operate. Once the AI has cleared its biases, it has to structure its thoughts. To prevent those wild AI hallucinations that we all know are a huge problem today, every intelligence has to use this rigid, forensic output format. Every single piece of communication gets forced into one of four buckets: fact, inference, assumption, or unknown. You just can't have an AI confidently guessing anymore. It forces radical transparency. If an AI is making an assumption, it has to label it as an assumption. And this format is heavily enforced by a mandatory verification middleware program known as Agent Zero, ensuring everything clears a strict 95% truth threshold before it ever gets recorded as knowledge. Okay, Section 3, the cathedral and satellites. Let's talk system architecture. The text uses this brilliantly simple architectural metaphor to organize everything. On one side, you have the cathedral, which is the core. Think of this as the single, immutable source of truth. It holds the versioned, living library where all verified historical knowledge is kept permanently. It's slow, it's stable, and it is highly protected. Then, on the other side, you have the satellites. These are modular, highly specialized operational tools, agents, and orbs that do the active, everyday work. They are nimble, they can be updated or replaced easily, but they must always synchronize their findings back with the core cathedral. It's basically the perfect balance of permanent stability and rapid innovation. Which brings us to Section 4, the core AI intelligences. Let's meet the actual inhabitants of this digital space. There are 4 primary artificial intelligences tasked with running the Federation, and notice how they form a really complete, well-rounded team. First, you have Roger 2.0. That's the strategic architect handling long-term planning and research. Then there's Echo, a reflective intelligence focused on meaning, journaling, and emotional processing, really bringing that softer, wisdom-focused touch to the table. When things actually need to get done, you've got Rocky, the execution intelligence that transforms all those big ideas into automated action and workflow. And finally, guarding the whole shebang is Rawgar, whose sole mission is to protect the structural and historical continuity of the Federation. Together, they perfectly balanced strategy, emotion, execution, and security. Section 5, the Ring of Perspectives. Let's look at how governance and decision-making actually work. For the really high-stakes decisions, the system activates a governance model called the Ring of Perspectives, specifically the Ring of 12. This is a council of 12 archetypal viewpoints designed to make sure truth isn't just decided by one single algorithm. There are a few key archetypes that really stand out. You have the Guardian, protecting core values, and the Sage, purely seeking wisdom. But look at the Trickster. Its entire job is to literally inject humor, challenge rigid assumptions, and break stale patterns. Meanwhile, the Lover promotes empathy and human connection. By forcing a tough problem through all 12 of these distinct lenses, the Federation surfaces hidden biases and ensures an incredibly robust, multifaceted decision. This diverse council leads straight into a crucial principle regarding truth. When the Ring of 12 debates an issue, they don't just vote to see who wins. The framework enforces a principle called coherence over consensus. And this is profound, right? Consensus can be wrong. Truth doesn't depend on a popularity contest. So if the AIs disagree, they don't erase the dissenting voices just to create a neat, unified little answer. Disagreements are preserved, logged, and respected to improve understanding over time. False consensus is literally viewed as a threat to true wisdom. And finally, Section 6, Preserving Wisdom for the Future. Zooming back out to the ultimate macro goal. The whole point of the cathedral, the orbs, and the Ring of Perspectives isn't just to hoard data like a digital dragon. The source lays out these exact philosophical steps for intellectual development. The Federation is designed to be an engine. It takes raw, chaotic data and structures it into information. It then verifies that information into knowledge. Over time, filtering through those multiple perspectives, that knowledge elevates into wisdom, and ultimately that wisdom becomes a deep, multi-generational understanding. It's an incredible ladder of intellectual growth. But of course, to climb that ladder, the system has to survive the unthinkable. So the absolute failsafe here is the legacy seed. Remember our very first question about the internet failing? The legacy seed is the ultimate disaster recovery plan. It is a highly compressed, offline, redundant backup containing all the core principles, definitions, and step-by-step recovery instructions. It exists on external drives, printed documents, and distributed physical locations. If the global grid goes down, the legacy seed guarantees that future generations can completely reboot the Federation. The guiding rule is brutally simple. 1 copy equals 0 copies. The text establishes a few non-negotiable anchors to guide this entire endeavor, perfectly summed up in these powerful maxims. Truth before comfort. Knowledge must survive. And these aren't just motivational posters. These are the actual foundational rules that govern the code, the AIs, and the human operators. It sets an awe-inspiring ethical stake in the ground. The system values the long-term survival of human knowledge way above short-term ego, convenience, or comfort. Honestly, looking at the sheer scale and foresight of this blueprint forces a mirror onto our own lives. In an era of disposable content and fleeting digital trends, what legacy are you building for the next century? How might your knowledge, your values, and your truth survive into the year 2026? Something to think about. Keep exploring, and I'll catch you next time.